Soy homosexual y a la vez soy anticastrista. Eso quiere decir que yo creo que reúno todas las condiciones para que no se me publique nunca un libro y para vivir al margen de toda sociedad en cualquier lugar del mundo.
Julian Schnabel's second film, Before Night Falls, chronicles the life of the late poet and novelist Reinaldo Arenas. It is based on the Cuban writer's 1993 memoir of the same name. The film explores the effects of Castro's Cuba and the determination of one artist under the persecution of a totalitarian regime. Here is the trailer from the film. Julian Schnabel is here. Also, actor Javier Bardem, who stars in the film as Reinaldo Arenas. I am very pleased to have both of them here to talk about this film. Just listen to this. Awards: 2000 Venice International Film Festival, Grand Jury Prize; 2000 Venice International Film Festival, Best Actor; 2000 National Board of Review, Best Actor; 2001 National Society of Film Critics, Best Actor; Southeastern Film Critics, Best Actor. Am I missing anything, Julian?
He was nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Actor.
Nominated
he is nominated for Best Actor.
Yes. For Best Actor, Golden Globe.
Yes, and we're nominated for Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Director, and Best Cinematography.
Best Director?
Yeah, for the Independent Spirit Awards.
Oh, wow. Is this brilliant performance getting all these nominations because you're just naturally a gifted actor, or was it because this was such brilliant directing in this case?
I guess, well, first of all, he's a great director and great human being, which is much important, I guess. Yeah. But I think it's the role in itself. You need an actor to play that role, but if the role is like Reinaldo Arenas, it's easy to do it, I guess. I'm serious.
Now, you were a big star in Spain. When he came to you to do this, I mean, was it something you leapt at? Did you say yes because...
Well, first I refused. Yes, first he offered me the role of Lázaro, who's played by Olivier Martinez, and then I liked it. But 2 weeks later, he called me at 3 o'clock in the morning or whatever, Spanish time, and he offered me Reinaldo Arenas' role, and I refused because I thought it was too big for me. I mean, too many things difficult for me: language, Cuban accent, and the most difficult of all, doing a person who really existed, and that's I haven't done that before. So it's another way of approaching a role.
So in fact, he didn't do it. And we're not here.
Tell me why. You saw him, Reinaldo Arenas, in a documentary?
Yes, a woman named Yana Bokova made a documentary on Havana. And Reinaldo appeared. He was already in Miami by this time, and he said, I guess I'll speak in English. No, he said, for the moment, my name is Reinaldo Arenas. The Justice Department has declared me stateless, so legally I don't exist. I live on the margin of society anywhere in the world. I'm homosexual, anti-Castro, and I'm not religious, so I have all the qualities of never publishing a single novel. And I thought he was very, very funny. And then there was some fragments of a prose poem, The Parade Begins and The Parade Ends. Right. And it seemed to me, Reinaldo was born in 1943, and The Parade Begins is really a hymn to the optimism of the revolution. And 20 years later, when he finished it, he wrote The Parade Ends, where everything is closed, and the only thing that, according to the incessant tap-tap of his typewriter, he was saved, honored, immortalized. And I thought that his life was kind of a microcosm for the whole revolution, so telling his story was like...
Before you saw that, what did you know about him? I mean, you're a man of culture and the arts.
I didn't know anything about him.
Nothing?
No.
You were just mesmerized by what you saw in that documentary?
Yeah. Yeah, this man appeared, and part of his poems were in there, and so I was so touched by what he had to say, it just seemed like...
Yeah, but that's a long way from deciding to make a movie. I mean, and you've been looking for a subject, or...?
I wasn't looking for a subject. As a matter of fact, first of all, I didn't want to make the movie about Jean-Michel in the first place.
Right.
And it was sort of a rescue mission, in a sense, to do it, because I felt like it wasn't going to get done the right way. And I definitely didn't have a plan to do this, and I wasn't even done with the other film. I was in Florida, and a Cuban friend saw this, and she knew me. She was a real estate person,
right.
I looked at some hotels that I never bought. But I had a friend. I made a friend there, and she showed me this tape, and I thought I'd never get the rights because in 1993, Reinaldo Arenas was on the cover of the New York Times book review for one of the 10 best books of 1993. He was already dead for 3 years.
3 years, right. Committed suicide in, what, Florida in 1990?
No, in New York
In New
City.
York, I mean, right.
And I contacted, well, I never thought I'd get the rights, and I contacted Tom Colchi, who was his agent, and he, and this took years to kind of put together, and then Basquiat was already completed, and I showed the movie. This friend of mine, Arthur Cohn, who works at Paramount, let me use the Viacom screening room to show the movie to Lázaro and to these friends of Reinaldo's. And I was embarrassed that there was like velvet seats in the room, like I was trying to co-opt them in some way and take this precious thing from Lázaro, who worked as, I guess he worked 7 days a week, 12 hours a day for 4.5 years, baking bread and delivering it, rather than give up the rights to this book that he was guarding. And so they saw it, disappeared for a while. I called Lázaro, he never called back, and one day he returned my call and he came to my studio, and he said, "You can have the rights." And I said, "Why?"
Have the rights.
Why? Why are you going to give me the rights? And he said, "Turn to page 312 in the book." So I pull out the book, the English version, I turn to page 312, and Reinaldo wrote, "I dreamed I was a painter. I had this gigantic studio with these massive paintings around, and inside the room are paintings of people close to me immersed in blue. Well, there were a bunch of 15-foot square paintings around, and I had done these portraits of my wife and my son with this resin on them that were immersed in blue." And then he said, "Lázaro enters the room, jumps out of the window. I run down from my apartment, and I'm on Holguin on October 10th Street, and I look at his beautiful muddy face, and my grandmother screams, 'Oh, why?' And I realize that it's not Lázaro that's dead, it's me, because it's my family that is around him." And basically, Reinaldo wrote me into the script.
What's this film about?
It's against intolerance. It is about freedom. It's about that one man or one person being true to their inner voice could actually change something.
What was the most compelling thing about him for you? I mean, you're the one who has to get inside of him.
Well,
was it freedom?
Freedom, and I guess it was sense of humor, yes, in order to survive all the things that he had to pass through. Sense of humor and also sexual freedom, which is something that we are not very used to. Because I always say that Cuban people, they don't have the guilt in the hips. They don't feel guilty in the hips.
Yeah, in the hips, yeah, right.
And that's something, me as a Spanish person who went to Havana for 3 weeks and talked with these people, it's something that really shocked me a lot. I mean, the way they live their freedom, their sexuality. And it's something very specific from Reinaldo Arenas.
Obviously, this film has not been seen in Cuba. Has anybody in Cuba commented on it?
Well, actually, it hasn't been shown in Cuba in a cinema, but Cubans that go other places, actually Cubans that
travel to the United States,
or go to, say, we showed the movie in the Toronto Film Festival or San Sebastian, Rio de Janeiro. There are Cubans that have seen the movie in all these different places. So we showed the movie to 1,500 Miamians, mostly Cubans, in Miami.
Exiles.
And we also, I think probably there are tapes that have sort of like made their way somehow over there.
Bootleg tapes.
But so what's the question?
Whether anybody in Cuba who had seen it, had it made its way to Cuba in any way, obviously it's not going to be shown and displayed in theaters there.
Well, actually, you know, I asked a couple of people. I mean, I've been to Cuba quite a few times, and I asked some people. The people from the U.S. intersection asked me if I wanted to show the movie there, and I didn't want to. I want to show the movie to the people of Cuba, not in some kind of selected venue. And so I wanted to ask first, and I think that the Cuban people should see what is part of their own history. Because, of course, you know, Fidel Castro runs the airwaves and the newspaper, whatever. And I think a lot of people don't know that there were UMAP camps, I mean concentration camps in the 60s set up to put homosexuals in.
Mm-hmm. He wrote his memoir. The film is based on his memoir. You know.
It's an accumulation of not just, it's not an illustration of that book. It's an accumulation of the hallucinations, Color of Summer, other books and stories that his friend Lassero told me. I called it Before Night Falls because I want people to buy his book. And actually, they've redistributed his book, and I've been going around signing Reinaldo Arenas books. I'll do anything to make somebody read a Reinaldo Arenas book. So they've redistributed his books in the United States, and they're doing it worldwide.
Yeah. Is this a case where the more deeper you get involved in his life, the more you appreciate him?
Well, I'm so deep in his life that Lassero actually now works with me all of the time, and I feel like a Cuban exile. And there's a sense of... But what's your question again, John?
Julian.
I can't help myself. I'm just a little insane.
Well, okay. That's not news. The question was, do you get more involved with him? I mean, do you appreciate him more? Do you?
I'm so involved with him, I can't think about anything else. You know, there's no separation between art and life, and my life, and there's no separation between me and Reinaldo.
Really?
And so I guess I'm fighting a lot of his battles. I mean, one thing that I find very, very satisfying is that people that did come across in the Mariel Harbor Exodus, or people like Caridad Martinez, who was a prima ballerina who left with her old troupe that lives in Mexico and teaches like bourgeois kids in Veracruz ballet, is dancing on the table in the Convent de Santa Clara, or Melanio Filiberto Ebra, who was my consultant, who came across in the Mariel Harbor Exodus. It's a way for people to identify what they went through and help other people kind of adjust to that, people that have been ripped from their roots in a way, had to start over. I mean, at one time when I was showing this movie to one of the distributors, they said, well, it would be great if the movie just ended when he arrives in New York and the snow is coming down. I said, yeah, but that's like not what happened to these people. I mean, it's a happy ending and it's maybe a nice place, but I think life in exile is so much a part of the complete understanding of who Reinaldo was.
Here's a clip in which Lieutenant Victor questions Reinaldo about his book, which has been published in France. Lieutenant Victor is played by Johnny Depp. Yes.
This book was published in France without permission of the Writers' Union. Therefore, you must have had someone to smuggle it out. You didn't go to France, did you?
Wow. Why did he continue to write?
He couldn't help himself. He couldn't stop. I mean, one other line that Johnny gives is, says, there's no rehabilitating a faggot. And, I mean, I think that he could not stop being homosexual in the same way that he couldn't stop writing, and the fact that there was a combination of the two was his glory and his demise. And I think his life would have been much easier if he would have just said, okay, I'll stop, and I'll just be like everybody else. But he didn't do that. No, he won, he was educated by the revolution, won a National Book Award when he was 20, and then he realized that freedom wasn't for everybody in his country, and certainly not homosexuals. And he wrote, and his books were not political essays. This was just a novelist and a poet. And so when he was included into the clique of José Lezama Lima, Virgilio Piñera, who were also homosexuals, but were also the greatest literary giants of the time, he was damned immediately, and the state security was on him. And his second book, he smuggled out of Cuba, and he became a stranger in his own country, and his prize was 2 years in El Moro prison.
How did you prepare for this, Javier?
First of all, I pray.
Yeah.
And second, I
Pray again?
Pray again, and second, I say, no, wait, no, let me get out of here. No, I went to Cuba for 3 weeks, and I spoke with people that knew Reinaldo, and for me it was...
With your passport, you can go.
Yeah. I didn't know who Reinaldo Arenas was in the first time, so I came to New York to talk with Julian. He showed me some video footage. I read some books, and then I saw a picture of him, and I was very shocked because we have the same broken nose.
Yeah.
And I thought, because I didn't know him before, he was going to be a weak person, I mean, or some kind of...
That's fine.
Yeah.
And he looked like a boxer, I mean,
Yeah.
like me. So that really helped me to have a decision. And then I went to Cuba.
That helped you,
Yeah,
knowing
helped me,
yeah. And felt more confident you could do it because you had this sort of, you go into it with this physical kind of similarity.
And then after that, I went to Cuba. I spoke with people that they're still living there and it happened the same to them. And came back to New York and studied English.
Well, he started actually and lived with a Cuban person in New York City, and he sort of really, he lost 40 pounds.
Yeah. And I also, I mean, Lázaro, who's working in Julian's studio, he helped me a lot. I mean, he's
his best friend.
Yes, and I was asking him on and on a lot of questions and give my video camera just to record me. I mean, just to see the movements or the way he talked, and he helped me a lot.
This movie has gotten lots of attention. Julian Schnabel is the director. Javier Bardem has gotten a lot of attention, not only from those people who are at the time of year to give out awards, but simply because it is a sensational performance. And I know Julian feels strongly that when you have taken it on yourself to tell a story that you so believe in and that has such meaning to you, and because the themes are important in terms of freedom and in terms of art and in terms of living with pain and all of that, and the sacrifices you have to make. His passion is in this, and so is his craft, and therefore this is a movie that people are talking about. And I'm pleased to have Julian Schnabel here and Javier Bardem to talk about this movie. It opened on December 22nd. As I said, it's won a number of awards before night falls. My thanks to Julian Schnabel. My thanks to Javier Bardem. Real pleasure to meet you.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us. See you next time.
Same name. The film explores the effects of Castro's Cuba and the determination of one artist under the persecution of a totalitarian regime. Here's the trailer from the film.
Grand Jury Prize, 2000 Venice International Film Festival, Best Actor, 2000 National Board of Review, Best Actor, 2001 National Society of Film Critics, Best Actor, Southeastern Film Critics, Best Actor. Am I missing anything, Julian?
He was nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Actor.
Nominated
he is nominated for Best
Actor. For Best Actor, Golden Globe.
Yes, and we're nominated for Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Director, and Best Cinematography.
Best Director?
Yeah, for the Independent Spirit Awards.
Oh, wow. It's just brilliant performance to get all these nominations because you're just now.
Soy homosexual y a la vez soy anticastrista. Eso quiere decir que yo creo que reúno todas las condiciones para que no se me publique nunca un libro y para vivir al margen de toda sociedad en cualquier lugar del mundo.
Julian Schnabel's second film, Before Night Falls, chronicles the life of the late poet and novelist Ronaldo Arenas. It is based on the Cuban writer's 1993 memoir of the...
Julian Schnabel is here. Also, actor Javier Bardem, who stars in the film as Ronaldo Arenas. I am very pleased to have both of them here to talk about this film. Just listen to this. Awards, 2000 Venice International Film Festival.